following program is an MLWRadio.com production.
Matt
Productions. You remembered them fondly, and then they were gone. And now you want to know,
Bro.
who, what, where, when, why. Why it ended with Robbie E and Matt Koon.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome. Hashtag Why It Ended Wednesday. We are here. Can you believe it's Wednesday again? I feel like we just got done talking to Ryback, Matt.
I can believe it's Wednesday because this is the show I think I've been looking forward to more than any, at least since Janetti, but maybe of all time.
Hey, on Tuesday nights, are you even able to sleep, or are you just that excited to hang out with me for 2 hours and learn from me?
It is like sitting at the learning tree, you know.
Dude, you're under my tree of knowledge.
And it's quite a tree, I have to say.
There's a lot of things up there.
There really
a lot
is.
of things can fall out of that tree.
But knowledge is not one of them. But
Hey, how nice of a guy was Ryback?
Ryback was the best, and also even though he's got a podcast where he talks every week about his career, I think it's called Conversations with the Big Guy. A lot of people enjoyed our interview and thought we got a different side out of him. I heard that over and over and over again.
Yeah, well, I heard that. I mean, every week we get stuff out of people that they don't normally tell in their other interviews. I don't know why. We just have that special power that they want to tell us things they've never said before. But everyone, the impression they get after they hear him or talk to him or get to know him is that, wow, I didn't think he was going to be that nice and intelligent of a dude, and he really is.
Yeah, when you see these like super jacked up dudes, sometimes you don't think they're smart, but you have to know this is a guy who put himself in position for success, just like we are putting ourselves in position for success at Why It Ended. And make sure you support us in all our endeavors. Check out our Patreon site, patreon.com/whyitended, and just give us a little bit of support, or you can check out our t-shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/whyitended. And make sure to check out our YouTube. There's new clips going up all the time, whereitended.com.
And then, of course, on Twitter and Instagram, follow us at Why It Ended. And guys, I know we say it every week, and it probably sounds like we're annoying, but just thanks again. Like everyone that's been helping us out on the Patreon page, thank you. Everyone that's active with us on social media, especially Twitter, because the day these drop, I mean, Matt, do you see the Why It Ended Twitter? We get like hundreds of tweets a day with people just giving their feedback on the show. And it's really, it's exciting to look forward to see what you guys think of each week.
That is my favorite part of the show. My favorite part of the show is seeing the feedback the next day. I love it. And one other thing I love that's been going on a little bit, I don't know if you've noticed, but anytime a wrestler gets released now, we get blown up.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought Robbie E and Matt Koon are creating this special kind of podcast where, you know, fans want wrestlers to be on it and wrestlers themselves want to be on it. Look what we're doing, man. We've said it before. We'll say it again. We're changing lives.
We are changing lives, and your live's changing a lot because you're doing a lot of wrestling, a lot of seminars, a lot of appearances. You do your Fight TV thing, and you got, you know, the Dad Bod Destroyer. And what else are you up to these days?
Well, this Saturday, I'm going to be wrestling in Georgia against Scott Steiner for UCW. So I'm looking forward to wrestling Big Papa Pump. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll have a pose down or something. But beyond that, remember, every Wednesday I drop the Robert Strauss brand videos on all my social media. And then, of course, they're on House of Hardcore and Twitch and everything.
So Scott Steiner, now you are a monster destroyer because you are wrestling Scott Steiner coming up. But I think I remember that you actually beat Abyss recently.
Yeah, well, I beat Abyss a few weeks ago at Overdrive Pro Wrestling. And it's funny that you brought that up because their next show, granted, it's not until October 13th in Nashville, Tennessee. But I have been set up because Terry Reynolds is the commissioner now, and she's throwing all these opponents at me. So it's going to be Robbie E and Tyrus one-on-one. So he step up to the plate, and just like I beat Abyss, I'm going to beat him, Matt.
It's going to be amazing if you are able to get through Scott Steiner, and then later on, October 13th, take on, I can't even believe it, Tyrus. Terry Reynolds brought in Tyrus to take care of you. Once you get through him, you're just a monster destroyer.
Hey, that's my life, man.
Now, speaking of monsters, this show...
Well, kind of.
Well, speaking of monsters, this show is a monster, and it's like you said earlier, We get different things out of people that you may have heard from before, and that is our goal today when we talk to Vince Russo, and we're going to go through all 3 of his exits from the 3 major wrestling companies of the last 20 years on why it ended.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to love them all.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I wonder if he'll have anything to say.
We'll find out in a few.
On why it ended. The Wrestler Review I heard, Robbie, is the greatest pro wrestling podcast of all fucking time.
Yeah, well, it's with Dylan Gott and John Hastings, who are 2 goddamn amazing stand-up comedians, and they break down the career of a great or terrible pro wrestler each week.
And that's what's cool. To have a good podcast, you need to be a little bit different, and this sounds a little bit different, and it's definitely worth checking out, guys. And this week, they start their 4-episode series on Kane, and in thanks to Robbie reading this, they won't beat you up anymore.
Yeah, and there's new episodes every Sunday. Hashtag 420, hashtag 69.
Now, Robbie, you and I are not 100% sure what that means, but make sure to check out the Wrestler Review. Listen to them on all your podcast platforms, and make sure to give them a follow at Wrestler Review. Hello there, Matt Koon here with Why It Ended, and did you know that thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people listen to Why It Ended every week to hear Robbie and my beautiful voice interviewing wrestlers the way they never have been done before, and you can advertise on that show. We're talking tens of thousands of wrestling fans, many between the ages of 25 and 44, males, the kinds you want to advertise to, and you can advertise. Just give us a holler. Email us at whyitendedmail@gmail.com and get on our show today as an advertiser or sponsor the whole show. We'd love to hear from you, and even more, I'd love your customers to hear from you on Why It Ended. And now, on Why It Ended, we are really pleased to have join us one of the most polarizing, maybe the most polarizing figure in professional wrestling history, the one, the only, Vince Russo. Vince, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right, bro. How are you?
Excellent.
Hey, Vince, I got to say, you are like this past week of trying to confirm you to be a guest on the show has been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Why is that?
Bro, because you brought that upon yourself.
What do you mean?
You want to be honest, let's be honest. You brought it upon yourself. It all goes back to me giving you the big break in the wrestling business when nobody else would hire you. Then all of a sudden, bro, you come to Rocky Mountain Pro and you're deprogramming my students. You're deprogramming them on Vince Russo and you're giving them the Robbie E way. And then the next thing I know, bro, you're who are you, Charles Schwab, and you're kidnapping freaking Dakota? And I'm saying to myself, do I really want to be associated with this guy anymore, bro? I got enough heat. I got enough heat on myself, bro.
Can I just say that you are the only person that doesn't like my new character, the Robert Strasser,
you know
and not the Dakota thing?
You know why that is, bro? Because
Why?
I'm the only person with a brain, bro. That's why. All right, bro? What the frig? And now I'm wondering, does his wife know he kidnapped Dakota?
No,
What
they're
about
two
the kid?
different
What happens if he
characters,
gets
bro.
caught? What's going to happen to the kids?
Abducting Dakota is one character, but the Robert Strasser is a completely different. You didn't even watch that Instagram video I sent
No,
you,
because
did you?
I refuse to watch it because
No, you love it.
a character change was not needed, bro. Was not needed.
So you don't think Jersey Shore's played out a little bit?
Bro, it's back on TV, bro. It's hotter than ever, bro.
All right, I don't know. Man. Matt, what do you think?
Strauss or whatever.
You know, I think, first of all, if Vince has not seen the vignettes, I think maybe you want to see those. But if all you've seen is the Dakota kidnapping,
Yes.
I can understand where Vince is coming from. I got to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
but that's not even the same character I tried to put over to him, bro. That's the problem. He won't even give it a chance. Hey, so listen, Vince, to get right into starting off, because I don't know this about you. I mean, obviously I know you now, but I don't know like a lot of your history and how you started with wrestling and everything. So how did you and when did you first fall in love with pro wrestling?
Bro, I gotta be honest with you. I never fell in love with bro. I was never a mark. Okay, I never fell in love with pro wrestling. When I was about maybe 12 years old, bro, I was watching TV, and like back then, you only got a couple of channels, And I remember putting on the UHF channel, bro. And when I put on this UHF channel, there were the Valiant Brothers and Lou Albano. And I was so freaking entertained by these characters. I knew what it was. As soon as the second I started watching wrestling at 12, I knew it was a work. I knew it was pure 100% entertainment. And I mean, I enjoyed the entertainment of wrestling no different than, you know, of course, I love baseball. And, you know, when I was growing up, I loved Kiss. So, like, you know, wrestling and the entertainment aspect of wrestling was what really drew me. But I was never one of those guys that was in love with wrestling. Like, my dream wasn't to get into the wrestling business. I just thought it was really a great form of entertainment. There were characters that were larger than life. There were storylines. There was, you know, pageantry and characters. And, you know, I mean, it was just, I always thought it was a great form of entertainment.
So how did you end up getting into it then, if you didn't feel that it was something you wanted to get into?
I wound up getting into it because I opened up a couple of video stores when the video boom was just starting. And I did a couple of promotions where I actually brought in wrestlers. I did 3 different promotions at my video store. The first one was Jake the Snake Roberts. Then I did Brutus Beefcake. Then I did Demolition. And I promoted them. And we had huge turnout at every event. I mean, it was phenomenal. And somebody who was doing a local radio show, wrestling show, came into my store because he knew I had done the promotions, and you know, he just wanted he literally came in to see if I would sponsor his wrestling show, and that's kind of where it all began.
Hey, Vince, one thing that has always struck me kind of peculiar, and I've definitely heard your story a bunch. I'm a Realm Network subscriber, and
you know, Matt, that's funny. Like, you and I are perfect strangers. You know my story, but yet I've known Robbie E for almost a decade. You know what, Matt? He never sat down with me. Vince, tell me about yourself. Tell me a little bit about your background. Never one time. But yet Matt Koon, who I've never met in my life, knows more about me than Robbie E.
Well,
this is coming from the guy who can't watch a 1-minute Instagram video that I send him, bro. And he wouldn't give me the time of day to sit down with me, bro.
You know, and to be fair, Vince, there's a lot of stuff Robbie doesn't know. So it's a long list. It's a long list. But one thing that Robbie definitely doesn't know is that, and something that's kind of struck me funny about the narrative of you being a fan but not a mark, of you getting involved because of the video store, is that you trained to be a wrestler with Johnny Rods. And first of all, I'd love for you to ask Robbie who Johnny Rods is. But second of all, what is that situation where you say you didn't really want to get involved in wrestling, but you trained with one of the all-time great trainers?
Yeah, well, Mal, here's what happened, bro. I was running my video stores. Blockbuster came into play. The writing was on the walls. I knew my stores were going to go under, so I had to get into another line of work. And what I looked at was, well, hey, man, you always thought wrestling was entertaining. You know, you always enjoyed it. Maybe that would be cool. So as I started making the steps to get into the business, I wanted to learn every aspect of the business. I never wanted to be a wrestler. I never wanted to be a manager. I wanted to know the ins and outs of wrestling. So that's why I went to Rods' school. And, bro, at the time, there was no ECW. A lot of the ECW guys were going to Rods' school, like, at that same time. So, like, I was bumping with these guys the whole 9 yards. But the whole purpose behind that, Matt, was just part of my education. I wanted to really, really understand the ins and the outs of the wrestling business, and that gave me a great start.
And then from doing that, how did that end up getting you a job with WWE? So you're training at a school, you're doing all this research. How did you end up getting a job?
I was doing a radio show on Long Island that I was paying for myself called Vicious Vincent's World of Wrestling. And I was actually doing some shows with the WWE, like when they played the Nassau Coliseum. I used to kind of do pre-shows where they used to give me some of their talent and I used to interview, like I interviewed on that show, like God, I remember Kurt Hennig being on that show, and God, they even gave me like Savage and Taker, and I mean, they really gave me some great talent. And basically, I was running out of money. So I wrote Linda McMahon a letter, and I said, Linda, this is what I'm doing. I would love to, get my foot in the door of the wrestling business. I had a journalism degree. I was a writer. And the next thing I know, Linda McMahon called me. And from there, I got my foot in the door as a freelance writer. That became the editor of the magazine, and that led to head writer of the TV show.
And it's really interesting to me that as a creative person, everybody I'll talk to about you says Vince is a creative guy. And you writing Linda McMahon a letter, first of all, is really creative because you're not writing Vince, you're writing Linda, which is smart. But the other thing is, you must have been watching the programming and said, I bet I can write this better.
No, Matt, I was desperate for a job. Matt, Matt, I'll be honest with you. Matt, where you from?
Virginia.
Okay, Matt, my video stores went out of business. I was literally, bro, selling appliances at a big chain in Long Island called PC Richards and Son. And my son, I had a baby at the time. My son was born at that time. I needed a job. So like, it wasn't even a matter of me watching the show and saying I could do it. I needed a freaking job. I can remember, man, when I got the job as the editor of the magazine, 94 or 95, I'll never forget, they called. They offered me $60,000. They were moving my family to Connecticut. I hung up the phone and I cried. And it had nothing to do with the wrestling business. I needed a freaking job. I did not know what I was going to do at that point in my life. So like, I was just so grateful to get a job.
And $60,000 in the early 90s. I mean, that's good, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was the most money I ever made at the time. So I mean, I was set.
How did you quickly go up the ladder so quick? Like from being just the editor and then to the head writer? Like how did it happen that you got that spot?
Robbie, this has always been my advantage in wrestling, and I don't care what anybody else says. This has been my advantage. As soon as I got in that building, Titan Tower, as soon as I got in that building, keep in mind, bro, I'm in my early 30s, so I'm not a kid. I'm not a mark. This wasn't a dream job. This was a job. As soon as I got in that Titan Tower, it was obvious to me. I saw the wrestling bubble full force. And I saw everybody inside of that wrestling bubble that literally had no connection with the outside world. They didn't have a clue with what was going on in society at the time, what was on television, popular music, movies, pop culture. They didn't have a clue. All they knew was freaking wrestling. And I never lost my perspective. I never wanted to be part of that bubble. I always wanted to have the perspective of a fan and a television viewer. I've always wanted to keep that perspective. I keep that perspective to this day. And that perspective, I think, really stood out to Vince McMahon, a guy that at the time was surrounded by, Pat Patterson, Bruce Pritchard, Jim Cornette, Jim Ross, lifers in the wrestling business. I was not one of those guys. I was a wrestling fan. I was a television fan. I was a fan of pop culture. And I looked at this business as something completely different. And I don't think Vince ever had that point of view before I walked in the door.
Now, it got to the point where you're writing Raw every week. And, of course, you get added SmackDown when your workload doubled. But to that point, one of the biggest things that people like to argue about with you, and of course fans love to argue about stuff, is what was your contribution to the Attitude Era? And I think some people on your side might overstate your case a little bit and say it was all Vince Russo, and other people, of course, make that very common thing I've heard you comment on, that Vince was your filter. When you look back at your contribution at a high point in the wrestling business, what is your responsibility for the success of the Attitude Era in WWE?
Matt, let me tell you something. This is the difference between me and Vince McMahon, and the difference between me and everybody at the WWE. And this is the difference between me and a lot of people in the wrestling business. Okay, bro? I have no problem at all giving credit where credit is due. People like to make up shit and say, oh, he takes all the credit for The Rock and the Austin. And I just come back and I say, you know what, bro? Play me back one interview where I ever said that. I mean, just one interview. Play me back the things you're saying I said. And you know, but it's not that, bro. It's what the Meltzers say and what the Keller says. And all of a sudden that becomes their truth. The fact of the matter is, and I think it is as evident as ever today, Matt, it's as clear as day today. You cannot give Vince McMahon a blank sheet of paper and tell him to write a wrestling show, because he could not do that. He is not capable of doing that. That's not Vince's strong suit. I'm going to tell you in a second why I considered Vince McMahon a genius, but Vince McMahon could not sit down and write a wrestling show from scratch. That's just something he is incapable of. So basically, myself and later on myself and Ed Ferrara, we would get together, the two of us. We would outline the entire show. I think it was like 13 segments for 2 hours, whatever it was. We would outline the entire show. This happened in seg 1, this pre-tape, this match, this pre-tape, going into commercial, coming out of commercial. The entire show we would write and format, and we would also write the show and format the show, making it Vince-proof. In other words, we knew going in, okay, Vince might poke a hole in this, or Vince might poke a hole in that. So we really, really were on the same page in writing a very, very thorough show, okay? Once Ed and I had that show on paper, we now went to Vince's house, okay? Ed Ferrara and myself, it was just me at the beginning and Ed later on. We would lay out that entire show to Vince from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Every single thing in chronological order, everything. Vince never, ever changed anything. He never changed big picture. He never changed matches. He never changed anything. Matt, here's what he did that separated Vince McMahon from everybody else. Okay, bro? And this is where the genius comes into play. And I have no problem saying this. I've said this for the last 20 years. Me and Ed would write what we thought was like an unbelievable show. I mean, we would put our blood, sweat, and tears into that show. Vince McMahon now would go through our show, you know, not make any major changes, not switch anything around. He would go through our show, bro, and he had a way of taking what we had and like tweaking one little thing or changing one little thing. And all of a sudden, if the show was an 8, Vince McMahon just made the show a 9. And, you know, and it was the nuances. It was never anything big picture. It was the nuances. He had a gift of seeing what we wrote in his head. He could see it. He could see everything that we wrote. and then it was just a little tweak here or a little tweak there, and Ed and I would sit at each other and say, holy shit, why didn't we see that, bro? What, we would get so mad at ourselves because he would just see these things that always made it better. And that's the genius of Vince McMahon. But obviously you could see today his writers are the shits, and Vince McMahon himself cannot write a wrestling show. That's why you're getting a horrific show on Mondays and Tuesdays.
And at the very beginning of that process, and that's all really fascinating, and it really answers a lot of questions. At the beginning of the process, do you have like a general idea, big picture wise, where Vince wants to go, or are you trying to tap into what you think he wants, or are you trying to tap into what is artistically best?
Matt, we wrote from pay-per-view to pay-per-view. That's how we wrote. Now Vince might know, okay, guys, this is what I want the main event to be at WrestleMania. He might know that, but that was about it. We would literally go from pay-per-view to pay-per-view. We knew, if we're writing, Royal Rumble, if the Royal Rumble just ended, we know what the February pay-per-view is, so we're writing from January to February. Once we had the pay-per-view in February, now we were writing from February to the next pay-per-view in March. We knew where we were going for the monthly pay-per-view, and we wrote organically week by week by week by week. Bro, here's the difference, Matt. This is a huge difference. Vince McMahon is in the wrestling bubble. Okay, bro? With Ed Ferrara and myself, he had two writers, and we were not in the wrestling bubble, bro. We were of this world. So the way we wrote TV was very, very different than the way they wrote it before and the way they write it today, simply because every character we wrote for, we would put ourselves in the shoes of that character. What would Steve Austin do if this happened? What would The Rock do if the same thing happened? How would Taker react to this? In other words, every character would react to the same situation or different situations differently. If you had good, well-defined characters, they're going to react to every situation differently. So, in a certain, this week this happened to Austin. Okay, well, what would Steve Austin do if so-and-so did this? And that's how we would write. We would stay true to every character. Before Russo Ferrara, after Russo Ferrara, it's baby faces and heels. Baby faces do this and heels do that. Bro, here's a perfect example. A month ago, Amber Moon debuts on WWE TV. So we see Amber Moon for the first time. She, if we didn't watch NXT, we see her for the first time. She comes out. It's some Amber Moon. She's got, crazy eyes. There's a lot of red. I don't know. Maybe she's a werewolf. I don't know. But it came across very werewolfy. Okay. All of a sudden, this is a shoot now, Matt. This is so obvious, bro. That the fact that they can't see this, it is comical. The next week, bro, the same mysterious character with the contact lenses in the eyes is now part of a 6-woman match. She's on the babyface team. They win, and now this same mysterious werewolf character is smiling, and she's smiling. She's smiling and celebrating the victory. By week 3, there is there's a graphic of Amber Moon, and in week 3, she's shooting out the peace sign. So in 3 weeks, we went from werewolf lady to smiling babyface to, dude love. And that's the freaking problem. They their characters aren't defined. They don't know their own characters, so their characters are always working out of school. Some week, because the character needs to be a babyface, I mean a heel, the character's gonna run. So next week, the character needs to be a babyface, so the character is going to stand tall. There's no trueness to any character on that show. That's why nobody cares but the marks.
So, bro, when you were writing, it was strictly just you and Ed, you're saying, right?
That's it, bro. Period. End of story.
We had Jimmy Jacobs on 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, excuse me, and he said that at the time, Matt, what did he say? He was with 20, 25 guys on the creative team, right?
There's a huge creative team now.
Yep.
I know he at least said he was one of 20 or maybe 25. So it just shows you how times have, I mean, so within 20 years, they've added 20 guys onto the creative team. What do you think that's the problem, Vince?
Well, guess what, Robbie? If it's better, great. I don't think it's better. I certainly don't think it's better. You went from two guys that were on the same page, that sat with Vince McMahon, period. That was it. Us two and Vince, that was it. You went from that to 20, 25 wrestlers. I mean, 20, 25 writers, and you can't understand why your show sucks? Like, are you kidding me?
Hey, I've got a painful question for you, Vince. If you had to choose someone to write your wrestling show, and you had to choose between the 20, 25 writers or the team of Pritchard, Patterson, Cornette, and Ross, who do you think would produce the better show?
God, bro. I mean, that is such a tough question, because they come from two completely different worlds. If it was Cornette and Patterson and those guys, you would get a 1970 wrestling show. But fast forward to 2025 wrestlers today, these guys don't have a clue about the fundamentals of wrestling. The foundation of wrestling, the psychology of wrestling. They don't have a clue. So it's just two totally different schools.
Hey, bro, so how did you end up exiting from WWE? How did your relationship with them end?
It was real simple, bro. And
what year was this?
This is 1999, and I think you'll understand. He just put SmackDown on our plate. See, bro, people don't understand. When Ed and I wrote Raw, every freaking episode of Raw took a piece of us with it. Like we agonized over every show, bro. I mean, you have no idea. We wanted every show to be perfect.
And a lot of hours too, right? I mean, this is a
lot of hours,
amount
bro,
of hours.
nonstop.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Yeah.
So now Vince throws SmackDown on our plate, and it's not that Ed and I really, it wasn't the extra work, but we knew the level that we were working at for Raw. And now with a second show, like, we knew, bro, we're not going to be able to write to that same level that we write to. There's just not enough time in the week. And we took great pride in our writing. And, so that really concerned us, because we always wanted every show to be the best that it could be. You just went from one show to two. Okay. So I remember at the time, man, I was working 20-hour days. And I went into Vince's office, and I literally had a nervous breakdown in his office where I began to cry. I mean, I began to cry. And I said to him, I said, Vince, this job has literally taken over my life. It has consumed me. I said, and that's okay. I said, but, my wife is literally raising my kids on her own. I'm never home. I'm never around. I want to move my wife back to her hometown so she could at least be around family instead of, by herself. I said, and whether I go out there and, just see her on weekends, like, I'll do whatever I got to do. I just can't continue to do this to my wife where I was never home, So he looked me in the eye, bro, like, serious as a heart attack. And he said to me, he goes, Vince, I don't understand what the problem is. You're making enough money now to hire a nanny to watch your kids. And bro, when those words came out of his mouth as a proud freaking New York Italian, he told me in that sentence, he did not give a shit about me. He did not give a shit about my family. All he gave a shit about was his company. And when he said those words to me right then and there, I was done. It was over, game over, relationship over. You don't give a shit about me and my family. Guess what? I don't give a shit about your company. I got hooked up to J.J. Dillon at WCW probably the next day, and I was in Atlanta that weekend, and that was it. Period.
So in the office that day, you told Vince right there, "Hey, I'm done." Right?
No. I'm talking about in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't say nothing to him, but when he said that to me, like in my mind, I knew, like, that's it, bro. I'm done. That's it. That's the worst thing you could have possibly said to me.
What day of the week was that? Like, what's the timeline here?
Oh my God, bro. I would think this was probably a Wednesday, and I was on a plane to Atlanta on a Friday.
And you took the job on a Sunday.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And they were that willing to let you out of your contract and everything so easily?
I didn't have a contract, bro. Never gave me a contract. Nothing.
In all your years with them?
Yep.
Are you
nothing.
kidding me?
Nope. Nothing. No contract. No nothing.
Was that normal back then?
No. I mean, I don't think, bro. I mean, bro, let's face it. They hired me as the editor of the magazine. I don't think there was ever any idea or indication that I was going to wind up like in the spot that I was in. So, I mean, I got to that spot, but there was never Vince, we want to give you X amount of dollars and sign you for 5 years. There was never anything like that. So I never had a contract.
How did that turn into, you talked to JJ, and that was a perfect time because WCW was going through some changes at the time. How did it turn into, I'm working too much, but this guy obviously doesn't care about me, so I'm done. And then WCW, they get a hold of you, or you get a hold of them, and it becomes not only head writer, still 2 shows, but now authority, responsibility. How did you feel about taking all that on in the context of your family as well?
That is a great, great, great question, bro. And there is a simple answer for that. And it was like the very first question I asked them. Being that Ed was going over there with me, okay, I had it in my contract. I did not have to be in every show. So in other words, if I was feeling burnt out and I needed to miss a Thunder or I needed to miss a Nitro, it was not mandatory for me to be at every show. So I had that freedom in my contract where bro, people don't understand this unless you're a writer, man. When you're a writer, bro, and you're giving your all, there comes a time when you freaking hit the wall and you need to just like disappear, and you need to be able to disappear to recharge your batteries or whatever you have to do, because this is 52 weeks out of the year, bro. This ain't a 13-week season. So I had that in my contract at WCW that it was not mandatory that I be at every single TV. And if I felt I needed to miss a TV, I could miss a TV.
And you getting the position you got, which was a very responsible position where you had a lot of authority, a lot of responsibility. Was that something you negotiated yourself into, or was that something you just put on a silver platter and said, Vince, take it?
No, bro, I basically signed the contract to be the writer. I mean, that's it. I was WCW's writer. I mean, I was the head writer of all WCW programming. I had no responsibility with talent relations. I had no responsibility hiring and firing. I mean, basically, I went there to do the same exact job I was doing at the WWE.
I was going to say, so you and Ed came in, who was writing the show for WCW previous you?
Oh my God. Well, Bischoff was gone at that time. So it was like Kevin Nash, Kevin Sullivan, Craig Leathers, who was a producer. There was about 5 or 6 different people.
And then they all had nothing to do with it. Now it was strictly you and Ed the whole show.
Well, we kept them there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we would still meet with them and stuff like that, but it was really mine and Ed's show, and we wrote the show and we had first word and last word and all that. But we kept the lines of communication open with those people.
Did a lot of those guys give you a hard time?
Coming
in and taking over. I mean, you know the deal.
Well, kind of, bro. Where the problem started was like, every time I was at TV, bro, like I would turn around and I would kind of see like J.J. Dillon and Kevin Sullivan having like sidebars and stuff, and like I knew exactly what they were doing and I knew what was going on. There was an accountant running the show that didn't know the first thing about wrestling, so he was easy to work by guys that may have wanted political gain. So it just turned into that whole game like within the first 3 months, and like I knew like this just ain't gonna work.
So I think this is one of the reasons, and I honestly think a lot of the polarization about you is misunderstood, including myself as a fan, is that a lot of us have the impression that you were just handed WCW lock, stock, and barrel. So they hold you accountable the way that they would hold Vince McMahon accountable for WWE. And you're saying that's not the case at all. You were just the head writer.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, I was just the head writer. I was responsible for the ratings of the television show. As a matter of fact, part of my contract, were bonuses, based off of ratings. That's all I was there to do. J.J. Dillon was talent relations in WWE. He left WWE to go do talent relations at WCW. J.J. Dillon was doing talent relations at WCW while I was writing. I had nothing to do with talent relations. I had nothing to do with hiring and firing and budget and who got paid what. Bro, I wouldn't have a clue how to do any of that stuff. I wouldn't know what to pay a wrestler. Like that's not the thing you got to understand with me, bro, is I'm a firm believer in staying in your lane. Okay, bro? I know what my strengths and weaknesses are. I know what I do really well, and I know what I suck at. One thing I really suck at is business. I've had like 3 or 4 businesses of my own. They've all gone out of business. I suck at business. I'm great creatively. Like I don't think there's anybody that can touch me on a creative level, to be honest with you. But here's where the problem lies in wrestling. People want power. So in order to obtain power, they start spreading their wings. I'll give you a perfect example. Eric Bischoff is great at business, absolutely great at business. I mean, runs circles around me when it comes to business. Quite frankly, my opinion, when it comes to creative, he sucks. That's not his forte. He's not a writer. Creatively, he sucks. But in order to gain power, well, now you got to do creative, and now you got to do talent relations, and now you got to step over here, and now that's how people get power in wrestling. I had no desire for power. I don't want power. I'm not interested in power. I don't want people reporting to me. I'm a creative guy. I want to write your television show. I had no idea what the salaries were at WCW. I didn't care what they were. They basically gave me a roster every week. You know, Vince, here are the guys on the contract. These are the guys on the roster. These are the players. Go write your television show. And just like WWE, I would go write my television show. I had nothing to do with their business outside of writing their television show.
Going into it, did you think when you left WWE, looking at what WCW was, did you think you could turn it around and have it compete with WWE?
Oh, no doubt. I still believe that. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, and we were starting to do that. You know, when we got into WCW, the last show they did before Ed and I started was like a 2.6. 3 months later, we were up to a 3.4. And you know, what we were doing was we were breaking down the old foundation, putting people in the spots that we wanted them, and we were really starting to build up from block number one. So we were, you know, that's what the first 3 months were, bro. The first 3 months were a total rebuild. And in those 3 months, like I said, we were at it from a 2.6 to a 3.4. So we were accomplishing exactly what we wanted to accomplish, but unfortunately, it was at that point in time that the politics kicked in.
There's been an argument to your rating success has been that Nitro also was cut down from 3 to 2 hours. Do you think that's a fair criticism? That
we Ed and I wrote 12 3-hour Nitros. Bro, I might be wrong with the 12. It was somewhere between 8 and 12.
Sure.
So we wrote somewhere in those first 3 months. We wrote somewhere between 8 and 12 Nitros.
Because that's the knock.
8 and 12 3-hour Nitros.
Because I'm sure you've heard that's the knock on your ratings claim.
Of course it is. But
down to 2 hours.
Bro, you got to understand something. That's why the Meltzes and the Kellers and all these jackasses will never say anything to my face, because everything I back my argument on is fact. It's not opinion. It's fact. You can look at when Ed Ferraro and I started, and you can see, oh, shoot, when they started, they wrote 8 shows before Nitro went from 3 hours to 2. That's all documented. And that's why these guys will throw all this shit out there. They don't back anything up with fact. When I say to them, you know what, bro, talk to me face to face. Let's have a conversation face to face. The reason why they don't is because I'm going to go to the facts. And when I go to the facts, it completely is going to obliterate their opinion, so I will make them look stupid. But anybody can look at when our first show was and when we started, it was at least 8 shows before we went to the 2-hour Nitro. And we only did it for 3 months. So at least 2 out of the 3 months, we were doing a 3-hour Nitro.
Hey, so you said no one on the creative team, you didn't have any problems with them or anything, but certainly at some point, some of the wrestlers that if they weren't getting the push they wanted or something, somebody at some point had to give you a hard time in WCW, right?
Brother.
No, nobody gave me a hard time. They all went behind my back.
But not one person ever called you out to your face?
Not one.
Really?
Yes. And
Wow.
and here's exactly what it was, bro. I'll tell you what it was in a heartbeat. Bro, I'll never forget this, man. Right before I started working at WCW, I mean, weeks before, they had a main event between Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. And I was watching it at home, and both of those guys looked every day their age. And I remember watching that saying, man, bro, they can't expose these guys like this at their age. They've got to protect these guys. They've got to put them in different roles that are going to keep them high upon their pedestal. And there were a lot of guys like that in WCW that were really getting up in age. So one of the things I knew when I went to WCW was we got to start moving these mid-card players into main event roles, because, the ages were starting to catch up with some of the veterans. So that was my plan, to bring the mid-card up and put like the Hogans and the Flairs and guys like that, put them in a different role that was going to, put them high on a pedestal, but they weren't going to be active wrestlers on the roster every week because they were kind of past that stage. Well, paranoia being what it is in the wrestling business, those guys thought I wanted them replaced. I didn't want them on the show. I wanted these young guys to replace them. They were going to be out of jobs. So, of course, they went to the accountant running WCW. And, bro, you got a Hulk Hogan and a Ric Flair getting in his ear. They're going to sell him the freaking, Queen Mary, which is exactly what they did. I remember Hulk Hogan has said this comment. Hulk Hogan has made this comment that when Vince Russo came to WCW, he made it clear that if you were over 40 years old, okay, you are going to be out of a job. Hulk Hogan's made that statement. Now, guys, let's look at this rationally. Part of my contract was I got paid based on ratings. Do you really think, bro, that I would want to move out a Hulk Hogan, a Ric Flair, a Sting, Kevin Nash, a DDP? Do you actually think I would want to move out these bona fide stars when I was getting paid based on ratings? These guys were the stars of the show. They were just in the wrong spots for where they were at that point in their careers. But for me to take the movie stars off of the television show when I got paid based on ratings, that alone just debunks that entire just mountain of freaking lies that people have built up over the years.
And there's no better microcosm of that duality.
I don't know what any of those words just meant. What are those two words?
Okay, so there's no better example, Robbie, of those two different truths happening at the same time.
Okay.
Then
I still don't get it.
Okay, I'll explain later. The Bash at the Beach situation with Hulk Hogan, where we have two different narratives coming out, and one reinforced recently by Eric Bischoff. One is yours, that it was a complete work. Everybody knew what was going to happen. Everybody knew what you were going to say, and then they heard from their friends and they got upset. And then the other side. Oh, go ahead.
But the first thing you just stated was incorrect.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I in the promo that I cut, I did not know what I was going to say. Bro, I swear to you, with every promo I've cut to this day, because I still work with Rocky Mountain Pro, bro, whether it was Vic Venom on Livewire, or whether it was WCW, whether it was TNA, whether it's Rocky Mountain Pro, I don't know my promo before I deliver it. I do everything organically. So I put myself in the moment. I know what the story is. I know what my emotions are, and I tap into those emotions. So I did not tell Hogan what I was going to say in the promo because I didn't know. What I said to Hogan was, I am going to cut a scathing promo on you. That's what I said to him because I knew I was going to cut a scathing promo on him. I did not know the promo word from word that was going to come out of my mouth at that point.
So looking back on it, do you think that maybe you got a little too excited, you took it a little too far, and that Hogan also overreacted? Because nobody ever said he was bald, first of all. I know that's a silly thing, but you not knowing what you're going to say and being swept up in that moment, That's part of it, but also the overreaction by Hogan and Bischoff.
Well, first of all, what did I say, Hogan? You big bald son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's
okay, like what? Like, why would I take? He is big and bald, and at times he was a son of a bitch. So quite frankly, like I don't have a problem with saying, guys. Here's the funny part. Let me tell you this, and you know how I said to you, bro, I'm all about facts. Okay, I say this, I'm all about facts, bro. Eric Bischoff could do his freaking show. What is it? 93 years. What is it? 83. I don't even know. I know it's a number.
It's called 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff.
83 weeks. He could do all the podcast and all the shows he wants, bro. Here's the bottom line. Okay, bro? Here's the bottom line. And this has been brought to Eric's attention many, many times. Okay, bro? But Eric will not acknowledge it. And also, I have said many, many times, Eric, I will have a conversation with you, face to face, man to man. And Eric has stated on the record, he will never have anything to do with me. No conversation, no nothing. You want to know why, bro? Because it's real simple. Everything that was said in the court of law, okay, the depositions, everything, they are all public record. You can go online right now and read Vince's deposition, Hulk's deposition, and Eric's deposition. You can go online right now and read them. Okay, bro? Here's the problem with Eric's story. Okay? When the depositions were taken, there was me, Eric, and Hulk in the room. Nobody else. Okay? Eric gave his deposition. Hulk gave his deposition. Both of their depositions are completely different from each other. Those two guys didn't even get on the same page. Okay, bro, here's our story. This is what I'm going to say. Anybody can go online and read their depositions, and both guys have two totally different accounts of that night. So that's why I say Eric could say whatever he wants about me. Read the freaking depositions. Eric says one thing, Hulk says something completely different, and these were the two guys that were in on it together. And that's why. That's why I say, Eric, let's talk about the depositions, bro. I'll come on your show. Let me break down these depositions for you. Nope. I don't want to have anything to do with him. He'll never be on my show. He's a scumbag. He's this, he's that. Yeah, why am I a scumbag, bro? I'm a scumbag because the truth is there for anybody that wants to read it. What happened, bro, was I cut my scathing promo like I said I was going to cut it. Hogan goes home, gets on social media the next day, and every freaking body believed my promo, hook, line, and sinker. Russo finally put Hogan in his place. Holy shit, Hogan had that coming for 10 years, yada, yada, yada. All of a sudden, Vince Russo became this folk hero. Hulk read that, got all freaking pissed off because now it looked like I got one over on him. So what does he do? He sues me for defamation of character. Okay, so now it goes to court, and so now the judge is there, and the judge is like, well, wait a minute, Hulk Hogan is your character name, correct? And Hulk goes, yeah, and the judge goes, well, Mr. Russo referred to you as Hulk Hogan. He referred to your character in a wrestling ring during a wrestling show. He never said Terry Bollea. He was addressing the character on the show. So the judge throws it out. Bro, Hogan appeals it. So now it goes to a second judge, and the judge goes, wait a minute, bro. Vince Russo, a character on a wrestling show, was addressing Hulk Hogan, another character on a wrestling show. How in God's name can you sue this guy for defamation of character when he never mentioned your name? And to this day, Bischoff, for whatever reason, still has to spin his freaking web of who knows what when the depositions are public record and anybody can read them.
You know, I do work with Conrad Thompson, so when you hear, some of your fans hear 83 weeks, the first thing they'll hear is my voice. So I know, you know, I don't know Eric Bischoff very well, but I've heard the show, of course. And one thing that I think we can just clarify right now is Bischoff implied very heavily. He said the ruling was under, you know, lock and key, like no one knows what the settlement was, but Hogan left very happy. So he's implying that Hogan won. Is that bullshit?
Here's where Bischoff's talking out his ass. Okay, bro? Because Hogan had 2 lawsuits going on at the same time. He was suing Vince Russo for defamation of character, and he was suing WCW at the same time. He was suing WCW over something with creative control or something. I wasn't a part of that lawsuit. I had nothing to do with the WCW lawsuit. So there were 2 lawsuits going on at the same time. I think I got dragged into the lawsuit because he wanted to prove I defamed his character, so it might help his WCW law. But what happened was, and again, guys, this is all public record. I emailed Conrad the files. And I said, Conrad, before you do your show, bro, I really think you should read these files. And Conrad wrote me back. He goes, Vince, you know I would, but we already taped the show. So, like, the show had already passed. But when you read the documents, my lawsuit got thrown out, not once, but twice. Hogan wound up settling with WCW. They settled their lawsuit. I wasn't a part of that lawsuit. I have no idea what Hulk Hogan got. That's what Bischoff's talking about. And that's exactly how freaking Eric is. It's freaking his narrative. There were 2 lawsuits, bro. My lawsuit is documented on the computer. Everybody can clearly see that the defamation of character was thrown out. Hulk Hogan versus WCW had nothing to do with Vince Russo.
And you did end up making up with Hogan, right? Because you guys worked together in TNA?
Yeah, no, we worked together in TNA. Bro, let me tell you something. I would have had a great relationship with Hulk Hogan if it wasn't for Eric Bischoff. And I know that because I saw glimpses of Hulk where I really saw the guy and I really saw the heart. And there were times that I really enjoyed being around him. But the fact that, you know, him and Bischoff were inseparable, that's why I had a bad relationship with Hulk. It was nothing between me and him. It was just Eric.
So what was your exit like from WCW?
Oh, my exit was, thank God I got concussed and I got concussed once. And I got back in the ring and I got my bell rung like 3 or 4 more times. And, you know, basically at the same time, they were trying to sell the company and I was feeling like shit. I had post-concussion syndrome and I was like, you know what, bro? These guys are trying to freaking sell the company. I'm trying to work through this post-concussion syndrome for what? They don't give a shit about this. They're openly trying to sell the company. So basically I went back to my doctor and I said, listen, man, you diagnosed me with post-concussion. It's very, very stressful for me at work and dealing with what's going on and this, that, and the other thing. And at that point, the doctor said, well, for health reasons, you probably should not go back to work at this time. So I did not go back to work and they continued to pay out my salary.
How did you get the concussion?
Well, the first time I got the concussion was in a match with Flair. I mean, we had a cage match at the Phillips Arena, and bro, it was a simple freaking Russian leg sweep where I did not tuck my head, and my head bounced off the canvas, bro. And like I said, I suffered the concussion there. I knew it like immediately. I got through the match though, and then like after that, I got hit in the head about maybe 2 or 3 more times. I mean, I know once by Ernest Miller, and then I got my bell rung again by Scott Steiner, and the last time was freaking Goldberg, who like almost killed me. And that's when I said, you know what, bro, like I'm not doing this anymore.
And none of it intentional, you don't think, right?
I know Goldberg's was intentional.
Was intentional?
No doubt. He told other people it was.
But it's not like Goldberg had a lot of control over who he could hurt and who he couldn't hurt, right? I mean, he was pretty aggressive in the ring with everybody.
Yeah, but bro, this was a deal, bro, where it was a steel cage match. Goldberg was supposed to spear me through the cage. Okay, there are 2 barricades, and there's the the ramp coming down to the ring. I said to Bill, I literally am suffering from post-concussion syndrome, bro. I cannot, bro, when I was wearing the hockey helmet, that was a shoot. I didn't trust anybody, bro, and I wanted to protect myself as much as I could. So I said, Bill, I got post-concussion syndrome, bro. You've got to be careful with me. You've got to lay me down right in the aisle, bro. Just spear me through the cage, lay me down in the aisle. Sure enough, the spot comes. Goldberg spears me through the cage, head first into the barricade. And right then and there, like that, I was done. Like that was it. I was done. The next day, I kind of did a gimmick where I handed the keys of the castle over to Mike Sanders, and you never saw me in WCW again.
And that kind of relates to one of the biggest criticisms of you that maybe has a little teeth. Like, I think the Arquette thing, we can see, like, the fact that you wanted the attention, you wanted the mainstream coverage. But what is your response to people who say, what the hell is Vince Russo doing in the ring? What the hell is he doing booking himself to win the title? What the hell is he doing in that cage? The talent pool was glutted at the time. They had a lot of people. Why did it have to be you in front of the camera?
Matt, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Have you ever written 116 television shows in 1 year?
I think you know the answer to that question, but
okay,
no.
Matt, see that's what people don't understand. And let me tell you why they don't understand it. Because people saying that are marks through and through. Here's what they don't understand, bro. We had 52 Nitros. We had 52 Thunders. We had 12 pay-per-views. That is 116 shows. It is a television show, bro. So when you're sitting down and you're writing a show and you got 2 shows that week, the pay-per-view, 116 shows for the year, what you're trying to do, you're trying to create as many different scenarios and stories as you possibly can, because you don't want the same old shit every week. Yesterday I said I was reviewing Raw and SmackDown. I made the statement yesterday, I don't care if I lose money with my podcast. I am not watching these shows anymore. I'm not watching SmackDown anymore. You know why, bro? Because when I'm sitting there watching SmackDown, I feel stupid. I feel like I'm a stupid moron watching a stupid show. It's the same shit every week. They sat on those same ladders last year. Week after week after week, they're losing their audience. There's nothing new. There's nothing creative. It's the same shit. So as a writer, when I know there are 116 shows, you've got to create different shit. So the stories are different. And all of a sudden, oh my God, Vince Russo gets speared through a cage, and now he has the WCW title. Holy shit. Will that buy me a month of TV? Will that buy me 3 weeks? David Arquette wins the title. Holy shit, now what? Does that buy me 4 weeks of a totally different creative or 3 months of a totally... These people are not writers. They don't understand. They're wrestling marks. And they have no idea, bro, what it is to write that many shows in a year. And the proof is in the pudding today. The WWE sucks, bro, because it's the same thing, regurgitated crap every single week. Look at the ratings. Less and less people are watching every single week because they're not creating situations and scenarios that are new, different, that people have never seen before. Marks are not going to understand that from a writer's perspective. They're never going to understand that. That's why I did what I did, because we needed to constantly be opening up that creative envelope. And you had to create different roads that you could go down, because there's so much freaking wrestling on TV. Unless you're creating these new scenarios, you're going to see the same shit every single week. And that's what we see now.
And bro, in 2018, how many people still regularly talk about the David Arquette thing? It's still something that everyone remembers,
bro.
and that everybody talks about.
Exactly. We were on the, first of all, it wasn't my idea, number one. And I say that not to take the heat on myself. I say that to give Tony Schiavone the credit. I that's why I say that. That thought wasn't even in my freaking head. We laid out the we laid out the show at the production meeting that day. Everybody leaves. Tony Schiavone comes up to me and said, "Hey Vince, I want to throw something past you. You know, what if?" And the what if was, what if David Arquette wins the WCW World Title? That's what Tony said. I was standing there, and this is a God honest truth, bro. I said to myself, I said, "Oh my God, like that freaking thought wasn't even in my head." I said, now, if that thought wasn't in the head of Vince Russo, can you freaking imagine the people watching the show? So I was like, holy shit, like Tony, like that was never even an option. I never even thought about that, but holy shit, the fact that I didn't think about that. So guys, what did I do? I brought everybody back into the room, including Eric Bischoff. And I said, guys, Tony came up to me after the meeting. Tony pitched this idea. What do you guys think? Well, of course, everybody in the room went for it. Of course, everybody in the room said that it was a great idea, Vince, a brilliant idea. But as soon as the marks come out, because they've convinced themselves that people really win that title when nobody's ever won any title in the history of wrestling, of course, when the marks start, well, then everybody scampers and, points the finger at Vince Russo. And you know what, bro? I'm completely fine with that, because I would sit here and say with a smile on my face, I would do the same exact thing tomorrow.
And it sounds to me like I'm getting an understanding of this now, because I haven't fully understood your viewpoint, but it sounds to me that you're less inclined to answer criticisms of creativity by people who are not creative, because to be creative, you have to take chances. If you take chances, sometimes it doesn't work out. And when people kind of micromanage their expectations of you about your creative ideas by uncreative people, that's where you lose your patience and don't even feel the need to even kind of validate their questions. Is that about right?
Bro, you know what it is? I'm going to be totally honest with you, Matt. Matt, I have such a great respect for professional wrestlers. Okay, bro? What they do in that ring, I would never do. I can't do. I'm not capable of it. I'm not interested in doing it. When I became a character on TV, I was a character. And I was a character whose big mouth got him into the ring. I couldn't wrestle. It was clear I couldn't wrestle. And 9 times out of 10, I was there to get my freaking ass kicked by the babyface. So that's how I use the character. I have a great respect for wrestlers. I never get involved with the way they lay out their matches. When I'm writing the show, I'm like, guys, this is what we need to finish to be so we could get to the next part of the story. So this is what needs to happen at the end. Whatever you guys do leading up to that, you guys are the wrestlers. You guys work all that out. I can't tell you how many times I've been blamed for bad matches. I've never laid out a match in my life. Never. It's not my thing. I stay in my lane, and I have respect for the craft of wrestling. However, every wrestler could write a television show. Oh, writing a TV show is easier. Jeff Jarrett could write a TV show. Or every wrestler can write a TV show. Every wrestler can be a booker. I took great insult in that, because you know what, bro? Not anybody can write a wrestling show, as is evident today. The WWE ratings have been going down. Ed and I left in 1999. When I was out the door, I said to Vince, you have a year to ride the wave. Everything is in place. We're not leaving you high and dry. You can ride the wave for the next year. Anybody can look at a ratings chart from 2000 to 2018, and every single year, the WWE ratings have gone down. 18 consecutive years of ratings going down. So guess what, bro? I guess everybody can't write a wrestling show. And maybe Vince Russo did those crazy things for a reason, because let's face it, bro, when Vince Russo was doing those crazy things, everybody and their mother were watching the freaking show. Okay, they've lost 75% of their audience, and if they want to tell you that 75% of their audience are now watching the shows on their tablets and you believe it, then you're a freaking idiot. You're a freaking idiot, bro, because people are still watching Game of Thrones on TV. Roseanne proved that people are still watching sitcoms on TV. They're still watching The Walking Dead. And if it's a good television show, they're going to watch it. WWE has lost 75% of its television audience. So I guess not anybody can write wrestling.
Bro, so, okay, we got off track a second. I asked you a while ago, so WCW is done. This is the year 2000 that you're done with WCW?
Yeah.
And then what year do you start with TNA?
I think TNA started up in 2002, I think.
And then how did that, so you took a year off from wrestling, and then how did it come about that you got into TNA?
Well, just Jeff, Jeff was my friend from WWE and WCW, and, he told me he was starting TNA, and he gave me a call.
And you were all about it? Like, you were cool with coming back to wrestling?
I wasn't cool. I wasn't cool about coming back to wrestling, bro, to be honest with you, man. After WCW, I could have cared less if I ever worked in wrestling again, to be honest. That's why, bro, at WCW, bro, they originally wanted me to sign a 3-year contract. And I said, absolutely not. I am only signing a 2-year contract, because in my mind, bro, I was gonna work for WCW 2 years, save all my money, and freaking be done. I was done with wrestling. So the main reason I went back in 2002 was, Jeff was my friend, and he was starting a wrestling company, and it was really more to help a friend than to get back in the wrestling business.
And the process of you being in TNA, you were there off and on for a pretty long time. And In that time, of course, they got decent ratings, the best ratings they ever got at one point. What was the highlight of you in your TNA years?
Well, bro, that's another thing. Matt. Again, it's the bullshit, and it's the lack of facts. They always say, "Oh yeah, Vince Russo was a success at WWE because Vince Russo was his filter, because he was a failure at WCW and he was a failure at TNA." Okay, well, let's take that statement for a second. First of all, the first 3 months at WCW before the bullshit started, Ed Ferrara and myself had taken the rating from a 2.6 to a 3.4. That is well documented. You can go back and get ratings charts from 1999, and you will see exactly what I'm saying. Let's add to that at one point, TNA was drawing over 2 million people, bro. 2 million people. Today, and for the God knows, since I left, quite frankly, the last 6-7 years, quite frankly, TNA is lucky to draw 350,000 people. So how was I a failure with TNA drawing 2 million people on my watch to them drawing 350,000 people for 6 years after I left? Like, how in God's name is that a failure? You know what TNA would do for 2 million viewers today, bro? You know what they would do with that? They F that up.
What year was this that they were? Was that in what, 2009, 2010?
Well, bro, I think I left 6 years ago, February. So I guess it was 2012. Right, somewhere probably between 2010, 2012.
What was your booking philosophy with TNA? What did you want to do with that company to help bring them up?
Well, you first came in when it was just the weekly pay-per-views, right?
Yes. And I got to be honest with you, because this is what nobody talks about, because they're marks and they don't understand it. When I left the Attitude Era and WCW and all that shit, and I went to TNA, okay, I knew back in 2002, okay, guys, the Attitude Era has come and gone, okay? We've got to keep evolving this business, bro. We've got to take this business to the next level. So my idea at TNA, when we were the weekly pay-per-view with Sports Entertainment Extreme, my idea was we've got to improvise, bro. Kind of like, Curb Your Enthusiasm today. We've got to improvise. We can't script everything. We've got to play off of emotion and stories and, this, that, and the other thing. So when I was at TNA during the pay-per-view years, and we were doing the Sports Entertainment Extreme angle, I was a character on TV, okay? Nobody knew when I was going to hit the ring and what I was going to do. The only people that knew were myself, Jeff Jarrett, because he ran the company, and Ron and Don Harris, because they were the guys that let me in the back door. So the idea was they've got their wrestling show going on, yada, yada, yada. All of a sudden, the back door opens. In walks Vince Russo. Nobody knew I was on the show. Nobody knew I was coming. I was not written down. This was not scripted. They had to react to me and react to the situation. That was, in my mind, the next phase of professional wrestling, where it was really going to get real. Now, guys, you got to remember, this is 2002. Reality TV is just starting. It's just at the infancy stage. We need to be a reality show. The storylines need to be the reality of the business. What's going on? That's what this show needs to be. To me, that was my most enjoyable time in the wrestling business. That was my most creative time in the wrestling business. And then basically, Jeff Jarrett being an old school wrestler, because we didn't know where it was going, because it was new, because it had never been done before, Jeff pull the plug on it, and we went right back to traditional wrestling. So from that time up until today, rather than progress the product, what they've done is they've actually gone back in time, where it's, it's baby faces and it's heels and it's long matches, and there is zero reality whatsoever in the wrestling shows. And a lot of people never saw those shows. Nobody talks about it. It's too deep for them. They can't comprehend a concept like that. I mean, these are marks who literally have convinced themselves that fake wrestling matches are real.
What was it? What back then? What was Dixie Carter's input?
Well, she wasn't involved at the time. She was just doing the marketing at the time. That was kind of, well, no, actually, no, she was in charge at the time, but like had nothing to do with the creative.
When did she start being involved creative? Like what year?
She was never really involved in creative, bro. She always used to throw her 2 cents in here and there. She didn't come to creative meetings or sit in on creative meetings or anything like that. So I really wouldn't say she was involved in creative.
So she never, when people would say about her wanting certain ideas or things to happen, that's not true?
No, bro, she would harp on things, bro. Bro, she would never come out and say like, okay, I want this guy to get pushed, or I want you to hire this guy. She would never do that, bro, because she never wanted to take the responsibility. She didn't have the confidence in herself that, it would work. So she used to hint all the time, bro. Hey guys, what about Hernandez? What about Sean Hernandez? And I used to say to her, Dixie, if you want us to push Sean Hernandez, just tell us to push Sean Hernandez. It's your company. You own this company. We will do what you want us to do. But she would never come out and say anything like that because she didn't want to take responsibility if it failed.
It was a reflection of the division that the fans had about you at the time because of, wrestling media, because of your reputation. And there was, I think maybe you ran into some resistance from the people there because of that division, because you have people yelling, fire Russo. You have a lot of people in your corner. How much do you feel that public perception of you hurt you in TNA?
I don't think it hurt me at all at TNA. I mean, one thing I got to say about Dixie Carter is, she always had my back, and I always had her stamp of approval for a couple of reasons. Number one, she knew what I was capable of. And number two, with the fire Russo chance, she always knew a lot of that stuff was not my shit. I mean, the electrified cage where fire Russo was deafening in the building, I had just rejoined the creative at TNA. I was gone. And I just went back that week. I rejoined creative, and it was Dutch Mantell, Jeff Jarrett, and Matt Conway. And I just came back, and I'm sitting in that room, and they're talking about this electrified cage. And I didn't want to say anything because it was my first day back, but I'm saying to myself, guys, do you not understand? With the resources in TNA and the lack of financial and the lack of funds in order to do this the right way, do you not have any idea how horrible this thing is going to be? I said that to myself because, like I said, it was my first meeting back, and this was like a freaking Thursday, and the show was on Sunday, and I didn't want to say anything. And sure enough, I had just got hired back with the company. So, after my first meeting, that's the pay-per-view with the electrified cage. The entire arena is chanting Fire Russo. Dixie Carter knew I had absolutely nothing to do with that.
Hey, Robbie, we have a new sponsor on board with Wyatt and Ed. We would love to welcome Pleasure Products USA. Now, Pleasure Products USA is your online destination for innovative, quality, and affordable items geared towards men's sexual pleasure.
That's right, Matt. Pleasure Products USA is here for those ready to have a match but is lacking an opponent.
Well, then ring the bell and head on over to stopusingyourhand.com today.
Grab a rest hold with one of their exciting products, including their signature product, the 3V Starlet Stroker. That's right, the 3V Starlet Stroker has an amazing realistic internal texture, multiple vibration settings, and for the finishing maneuver, an actual voice of an adult film star is recorded to the device to make more than the crowd pop.
So you're telling me that on this device, the 3V Starlet Stroker, you actually get an actual adult star's voice on there?
An actual adult star. I mean, who wouldn't want to be pinned by Lauren Phillips, Kate England, Ariella Ferreira, Carmen Valentina, Nikki Huntsman, or Eden Blair?
I don't know anybody. And fans of Wyatt Ended can get an extra 10% off their purchase by entering promotional code Wyatt Ended at checkout.
To earn yourself a 5-star rating today by visiting stopusingyourhand.com. Don't get counted out or disqualify yourself from satisfaction. Pick up a 3V Starlet Stroker or any of their other exciting products today.
Don't forget, guys, Pleasure Products USA is where their business is your pleasure. Of course, a lot of people, thanks for clearing that up. You know, I think...
But they did say fire Russo one time, and it was my idea. And I think it was one of the worst ideas I ever came up with. But I also know I was constantly looking for a new and different way to do things. I still do to this day. I don't want to see something on a wrestling show I've seen before. I don't want to see it. Why do I got to watch it again if I've already seen it? So, you know, when you're reaching for things that people have never seen in wrestling before, bro, you're going to be taking some chances. And, I remember there was a match between Abyss and Sting. I think it was a Stairway to Hell or something, where you had a fight around the building. Then the first one to the platform got taken away to safety. It was horrible. That was my idea. From soup to nuts, that was my idea. And I remember clearly they chanted Fire Russo that night. But, bro, as a wrestling fan, okay, bro, because I can't say I'm a wrestling fan anymore because I'm not. I'm not a wrestling fan anymore. Whatever this is today is not wrestling. And I'm not interested in it. And I don't want to watch it. And I don't want to talk about it. And I have nothing to do with it. But when I was a wrestling fan, I always wanted to see something new. I wanted to see a spectacle. I wanted to see something different. I didn't want to see the guys sitting on top of ladders for 2 years in a row. That's not what I wanted to see.
So in taking those chances, not everything hit, but I guess the criticism, it's the manner of the criticism. But let's get to the end of TNA real quick, in that how did this whole secret Vince Russo employment thing come about? Because that's a story that's come out, and and I know we're gonna hear your side, but that's the perception that's out there, is that there was a secret Vince Russo employment because TNA publicly couldn't say that they had you on the payroll because of their relationship with Spike.
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth, Matt. This isn't my side. This is the truth. Okay, bro? Because I don't tell sides. I'm going to tell you the truth. Okay? And Robbie, knowing Dixie Carter, I'm sure he will understand what I'm about to say. Okay? Bro, I was running my own business, and like for the 4th or 5th time, my business was going out of business. Okay, bro? So I needed work again. So freaking.
Vince, real quick, why did you leave TNA to begin with? What was the reason?
I left TNA to begin with because freaking Dixie Carter, the arrangement, bro, between Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff and myself, and we wrote the show, then we had to bounce it to Bruce, then Bruce bounced it back to us, then we had to bounce it to Eric. It got freaking ridiculous. There was so many layers of creative. It was a freaking joke. And here's the funny part, guys. I replaced Bruce Pritchard creatively in the WWE, and I took over Eric Bischoff's creative spot in WCW. Now, Dixie Carter somehow completely reversed that process, and now I had to get Bruce's approval creatively, and I had to get Eric Bischoff's approval creatively. And you know why that happened, guys? That happened because of politics. And that happened because Bruce wanted power and Eric wanted power, and all Vince Russo wanted to do was write the show and keep his mouth shut. So that turned into a situation where Matt Conway and myself were writing the entire show. Then we had to send it to Bruce, and Bruce gave his 2 cents. We had to put in Bruce's suggestions. Then it went to Eric, and I was like, you know what, bro? I literally replaced these 2 guys creatively, and now they're telling me how to write and it just got to the point. I'm like, you know what, bro? I'm not doing this. I left the money on the table, and I freaking walked away. And again, bro, you can see ratings-wise exactly where Vince Russo walked away creatively at TNA, because from that point on, the ratings just went down to where they are now.
And that was in 2012, right?
2012, I believe, yeah. So the incident, bro, I was running my own business. It was going out of business. I needed a freaking job. TNA's ratings were in the shitter all over again. Okay, bro, they hired John Gaborick. Dixie Carter wanted me back. Okay, and I had a conversation with Dixie. I knew she wanted me back, but again, Dixie couldn't pull the trigger. Dixie didn't want to, be the one responsible. Oh, Vince, you got to talk to John. And I'm like, but Dixie, isn't this your company? Oh yeah, but John's in charge now. This and that, whatever. So I talked to Gaborick. They come up with this idea that they're going to bring me back as a consultant. That's fine. I got no problem with that. Now, there was never a word of why they were going to bring me back, why they wanted it to be a secret. But Dixie Carter told me flat out, if anybody finds out that you are consulting for this company, then the gig's up. She never mentioned USA Network. Never, bro. I never had a bad relationship with USA Network, bro. I worked there for 10 years. What happened was when Eric Bischoff came in, and of course, Eric is a political animal. Eric worked his way into the executive producer role. And what did Eric do? He would go to the executives at USA Network, not USA, at Spike TV, and he would bury Vince Russo. And, I don't know why Vince is doing this, and I don't know why Vince is doing that. And if I were in charge, this is what I would do. Well, bro, maybe Vince was doing things the way he was doing them because 2 million people were watching. Let's start there, Eric. But the 2 million people wasn't good enough for Spike TV. So I know Eric was burying me to Spike TV. Me personally, I never had a crossword with Spike. I never had a bad experience with Spike. I worked with Spike for 10 years. So Dixie Carter said to me, if anybody finds out about this, the gig is up. Robbie, why do you think Dixie wanted it to be a secret?
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Why do you think, bro? Think about it.
Is it because she didn't want confrontation?
Confrontation from who?
From Bruce, from...
No. Bruce was gone. Bruce and Eric were gone at that point. They were all gone. Bruce was gone. Eric was gone. Jeff Jarrett was gone. They were all gone at that point.
Because she would have felt bad if you were getting all the credit for why the show was getting better?
No. Look, guys, here is the reason why she wanted it to be kept a secret. You ready? Because of what the dirt sheets and the marks would say.
Yep.
That is why it had nothing to do with you.
Did she tell you that?
No, but I knew that. I knew her like the back of my hand. Guys, when she used to walk into a creative meeting with her ideas, they were verbatim of what Wade Keller had said on his show the day before. She had she had a line of communication with Wade Keller. She was talking to Wade Keller about our shows, and then she would come in and literally give Wade Keller's opinion like it was her own. So I knew Dixie did not want the dirt sheet writers, Meltzer and Keller and the Marks, because they would freaking bury it. That's why she didn't want people to know. And here's why I know that. Because Gaborik was slowly but surely bringing me back into the mix where I could come to the shows and all that, okay? A week before this shit went down, John Gaborik said to me, Vince, at the last TV, I spoke to Scott Fishman. Scott Fishman was the representative between Spike and TNA that I had worked with for 10 years. I told Scott Fishman, you were consulting with us. You'd been working with us for however many months it was, and we were ready to start bringing you back in the fold. And Scott had no problem with it. Okay, that's what Gaborik said to me. I was ready to go back to TNA like at a full-time basis after he had that conversation with Scott Fishman. Then all of a sudden, the next week, the shit hit the fan because I sent the email to the wrong person and this, that, and the other thing. And that entire story about the USA Network was created by the dirt sheet writers. They were the ones that came up with the idea. USA Network found out. Guys, think about the logic of this for a second. See, this is why these guys are such freaking imbeciles. Because listen to the logic. Their whole thing was, Spike Network pulled the plug on TNA Network because they found out Vince Russo was consulting, so they no longer wanted to do business with TNA. That was the narrative of Meltzer and Keller and all these guys. Guys, do you really think a television network is going to sever a relationship with a company for 10 years rather than just tell the company we don't want Vince Russo to have anything to do with TNA? Like, do you really think, bro, that they would sever the relationship rather than just say, get rid of Vince Russo? Do you know how freaking asinine that is? But that's the narrative, and that's the things that they convince themselves of. So that was another story. Vince Russo cost TNA their relationship with Spike TV. Do you guys know what cost the relationship with TNA and Spike TV? Not at all. Do you know what it was?
No.
You know how I've been telling you guys from day one, everything is about politics, everything is about ego, everything is about power. That's why I thank God I got nothing to do with the wrestling business anymore. John Gaborik gets hired but Dixie Carter hires John Gaborik. Okay? Eric Bischoff is the executive producer of the show. Eric Bischoff worked freaking Spike TV and the executives into believing that he was the be-all, end-all. He buried Vince Russo in the process. I'm sure he, threw Dixie Carter under the bus, but they thought Eric Bischoff knew it all. Okay, bro? What's the first thing John Gaborik does when he gets hired by Dixie Carter?
Get rid of Eric Bischoff.
He got rid of Eric Bischoff. That was the end of the relationship with Spike TV. It had nothing to do with Vince Russo being a freaking consultant, just giving his 2 cents. The first thing Gaborik did was get rid of Eric Bischoff, who was Spike's favorite son. I knew right there. I knew. Oh, bro, this is bad. Those guys loved Eric. Gaborik never had a relationship with Spike TV, and that was it. Now, bro, doesn't that make a hell of a lot more sense than, Spike found out that Vince Russo was consulting, so they ended their contract? Are you freaking kidding me, bro? Like, come on, man.
Hey, Vince, what exactly is that email that you wrote and sent to everyone?
Oh,
Who is
no,
it?
bro, because what happened was Gaborik kept increasing my responsibilities every week. He was working me back to the full-time job. So that week, bro, my responsibility was I was now working with the announcers. Okay, bro? So I was sending Mike Tenay an email. And, bro, I hadn't emailed Tenay in years. You know what I mean? So, bro, I was sending Tenay an email. And I guess, like when you put in Mike, whatever, all these emails come up. Freaking, I accidentally sent it to Mike Johnson.
What was the thought in your head when you realized that happened at that moment?
The thought in my head, bro, kind of was, you know what, bro? Like, honestly, if you're going to fire me because, like, now the marks and the dirt sheets found out that Vince Russo is really working for you, bro, if you're really going to fire me over that, then, bro, I really don't want to be working for this company. That's really how I felt at the time. And that's exactly what happened. Exactly what Dixie said. If it gets out, the gig's up. And because I made a mistake, it got out.
And you think that somebody in the circle went to the dirt sheets and fabricated that story, or do you think the dirt sheets made that story up about Spike TV, Russo being the point break of Spike TV?
That's really hard to say. I don't think it was anybody within the company, like including Gaborik, because like that was just so far from the truth. Like that was just that just was so far from the truth. I never had heat with USA Network. I had a great relationship with Scott Fishman. I had brought them the highest ratings they ever had. Like I said, bro, things changed when Bischoff came in because he was burying me to them, and I knew that he was, and but still there were no crosswords, no nothing. And like I said, the week before, Gaborik had told me, I had a conversation with Scott Fishman. I told him you were consulting with us, and I told him, we were ready to bring you back on a more permanent basis. So I believe that to be the truth. I don't know why John Gaborik would lie to me. So if that were the truth, I can't imagine, TNA going back and starting that rumor.
Well, we've gotten through, the show is why it ended, and I wanted to get through the 3 different endings of Russo that people talk about, but I do have a couple other questions. As someone who, as a fan or a mark, you might say, who's followed you and hasn't understood or been critical, can you tell me what a mark is? How do you Vince Russo define a mark?
A mark is somebody that has convinced themselves that the fake fights are real. That's a mark. That the audience today have convinced themselves that the fake fights are real. Bro, read Meltzer. Read what they say. Bro, that's why I have a show, Castrating the Marks. And I play their own comments. I take clips from their show. I take tweets that they tweeted out. They've convinced themselves that the fake fights are real. If you've convinced yourself of that, you are a mark. This is no longer entertainment to them, bro. It's no longer a television show. It's no longer ratings. They've convinced themselves that the fake fights are real. And, bro, tune in to Castrate the Marks any day you want on the Realm Network, bro. Russo'sBrand.com. You will hear them say that. They believe the fights are freaking real. That is a mark. And
bro, let me just.
You know who you are.
Because I don't listen to that many podcasts. Like I never really did before I started doing mine. I'll be honest, but I have listened to that a few times, Vince, and it is freaking hilarious.
They've convinced themselves that grown men fake fighting is real. Bro, if you're one of those people, you're a freaking mark. It has nothing to do
now. What do their wives think about this and everything?
Now, bro, now it has nothing to do, Matt, Matt, I'm a mark for a million things that I have no problem saying I'm a Rihanna mark. I'm a Beatles mark. I'm a baseball mark. I have no problem saying I'm a mark. But what that means is I support Rihanna. Maybe I pay more than I should to go see a Rihanna show. You know, I might buy a T-shirt, not because I want the T-shirt, because I know it supports her. Like, so I'm a mark. That's not what we're talking about here, bro. We're talking about, bro, there are people chanting in freaking arenas, fight all night, fight. Nobody's fighting, bro. There's no fight. These guys are not fighting. You're chanting, fight all night. This is not real. If you're one of the people chanting, fight all night, you are a freaking mark, bro. I mean, come on, bro. Fight? What fight all night? Nobody's fighting, bro.
But isn't the attraction of wrestling and the attraction of movies or TV that suspension of disbelief, and that maybe you thinking that they think it's real is just them wanting the narrative to be better?
No, Matt, we could do a whole show on why they think it's real. Okay, when you bring up movies, bro, and you bring up TV, movies and TV and music are based on entertainment. It's entertainment. You're being entertained by a story, bro. You're being entertained by characters. It would be the equivalent of, bro, a fight scene in a movie being the entire movie and people thinking it's real. That would be the equivalent. No, bro, the fight in the movie is a part of the movie. The majority of the movie are actors. Characters and storylines, bro. That's what's entertaining you, bro. You know, it's like, guys, I say this all the time. Take any freaking Rocky movie. Take any freaking Rocky movie. Cut out the entire movie and go to the last 15 minutes of the fight. What the frig would that fight matter if you didn't see the hour and a half before it? Who gives a shit if you didn't see the building of the characters and Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa and Adrian and the story, you know, the underdog and living in that shit apartment and Apollo's, you know, what would that 15-minute fight mean? It wouldn't mean shit. These marks have made that 15 minutes the entire show. And they don't care that there's no characters. They don't care that there's no storyline. They've convinced themselves that the fake fights are real. Why, bro? Because let's look at the wrestlers today, bro. Something happened along the line where anybody could be a wrestler. So they're living vicariously through freaking Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn on TV yesterday said, I weigh 213 pounds. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, bro, do you really want to say that on a wrestling show? Because quite frankly, I weigh more than you, bro. 213 pounds. I think I can kick your ass. But what that does, bro, is you got the marks in the audience. Oh, whoa, hey, I weigh 210 pounds. Hey, well, if Sami Zayn could be a wrestler, then maybe I could be a wrestler. That's what's happened to the freaking wrestling business. I am not a fan. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to watch it. What they've done to this business, I've never, ever seen a business just completely annihilated the way wrestling has. Man, I can only think of like some of the greats, you know, that built this business, seeing the shit that they're seeing today. Oh my, those are the people I really feel sorry for.
No, I was just going to say, because we didn't really touch on it. At one point, weren't you going to go back to the WWE?
When?
At some point when you left, didn't you go back?
Oh, yeah, bro, but that was like back in 2002.
And whatever.
It was 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, about that. I can't remember exactly, but it was about that. Yeah.
And why didn't it ever pan out? Just because we never.
Bro, that's a whole other story, bro. To make a long story short, bro, Vince had already hired me. We had already agreed on money. He didn't want to let anybody know. He just wanted me to show up at King of the Ring. And I said, Vince, I'm not doing that. I said, that's not the right way to do it. You need to introduce me to the writers and this and that. We need to do this the right way. So the next day, and keep in mind, bro, this is when the ratings were already in the toilet. They had already lost all the ratings from the Attitude Era. They lost it all. So Vince brings me to a room of about 20 writers. I could not believe how many writers were in this room. So I proceed to lay out the entire year of programming for them, knowing full well that as soon as I leave this room, they are going to bury me to Vince, because if Vince hires me, there's no need for any person in this room. So they are going to absolutely bury me to Vince. They're going to make sure Vince doesn't hire me. And then shortly after that, I had a conversation with Stephanie. Vince did not tell Stephanie that he had hired me. Stephanie and freaking Triple H are egomaniacs, so they wanted all the power. All of a sudden, that Vince is going to hire Vince Russo, who knows more about writing than they ever will. Stephanie spoke to me like I was her redheaded stepchild. And, basically I went home that night and I was like, bro, this is not going to work. And sure enough, Vince called me the next day and said, bro, this is not going to work. And I said, yeah, Vince, because when I left, every writer in that room buried me, because if you hired me, you don't need them. And this is exactly what I said to Vince in 2002, bro. I said, Vince, the people you have in that room are not capable of turning your television show around. That's exactly my last words to Vince McMahon. Look at the television ratings from 2002 to 2018.
And, that has turned out to be true with the ratings. We have a couple more questions. Vince, thank you so much for your time. I know your time's valuable, but just a couple more questions, because it's stuff I don't know how many opportunities I'll have to ask Vince Russo these questions. This notion that the dirt sheet writers think it's real. Now, and I'm just trying to bridge the gap a little bit, because I have a relationship with a few of these people, and I'm really friends with one of the people that's criticized on your show. But I was on...
Can you tell me who it is? Who is? Oh, okay.
So...
Yeah, is another one that's got a smoking gun on me that he's going to freaking drop. Bro, do you really think if freaking still has smoking gun on me, he wouldn't have dropped it by now? Bro, you know what? Let me tell you something. Matt. You know why
they don't hate you, Vince. They don't hate you.
Then why don't they? Okay, let me tell you something, Matt. Here's the bottom line. Why don't they come on my show? I tell them, guys, I want you to come on my show. I want to have a conversation with you. I'm not going to ridicule you. I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm not going to cut promos on you. I want to have a conversation with you. I've openly invited them on my show. Why don't they come on my show then?
I will tell you what I think it is, and I haven't asked them that question, but I will say that I think you don't, in my opinion, you don't do yourself any favors sometimes, because you bring a machine gun to a knife fight, and they think that sometimes the vitriol is just too much. And I understand where it comes from, but I also understand that they think they don't want to go on a show and get into a shouting match or be berated the way they are on Castrating the Marks.
But why would they if they're right? Well, if they came on and they proved their case with facts and they were right and they have the opportunity to shut me down once and for all, bro, then why don't they do it? If they have facts to prove me wrong, Vince Russo is the biggest liar on the face of this planet, and here are the facts to back it up. That's why I want to go on Bischoff's show. Bischoff has the 83 weeks. He's full of shit. I would be more than happy to go on Bischoff's show and tell him he's full of shit. I'm not afraid of Eric Bischoff, because I know I have facts, Eric. Here are the facts why you are full of shit. I would think if they had those same facts to prove all the things they say about me, then they would welcome the opportunity to do it to my face in front of my audience. And if I had something to hide, and if I were indeed lying about anything, the last thing I would do would be invite these guys on my show, because they'd expose me. That's the last thing I would do.
Sure. And I think that the perception of you is that you have been attacked so much. And believe me, when I put that Vince Russo was going to be on Why It Ended, it was two kinds. And I got a glimpse into Vince Russo at that moment. I really did, because there were so many people that just said F him. And you have gotten that for 20 years. F Russo. He ruined WCW. He did this at TNA. You've gotten that for so long that you maybe might want to consider the idea that you have built up this resentment that is so big that people are afraid to confront you because they're afraid that you're going to kind of explode on them.
Well, if you're afraid to confront somebody and you continually open your mouth about them, then you are a 100% bona fide pussy. If you're going to continue to talk shit about somebody but never confront them, I would never ever say anything on my show that I would not say to somebody's face. Freaking Cody Rhodes, who I've never met in my freaking life, called me a homophobe because, his friend Ryan Satin said, hey, Russo's a homophobe. Okay. I went on my podcast and basically said, hey, bro, if you have any proof whatsoever of me being a homophobe, please come on my show and give it to me, bro. Please tell me what that proof is. What wrestler came up to you and said Vince Russo did this and that? And please come up on my show. Bro, if you're going to say, incriminating things like that about people and then not have the balls to address them to my face, you're a pussy, bro. You're a 100% bona fide pussy. And all these guys are freaking pussies, because the reason why they don't come on, bro, is because of the facts. And with the facts and with the numbers, it will completely wipe out any opinion they have of me. That's the problem, bro. They don't state opinions on me. It's not my opinion of Vince is this or my opinion of Vince is that. That's not what they do. They have facts, bro. Vince Russo killed WCW. I swear to God, the other day, Dave Meltzer had a tweet. Basically, somebody said, well, Vince, Dave, if Vince is such a homophobe, like, what about all the work he did with Goldust and this, that, and the other thing? Dave Meltzer turns around and says, well, quite frankly, Goldust was developed before Russo started working with him, and Russo really didn't start writing for Goldust until 1997. Okay, bro, I wrote every single promo and every single word that came out of Dustin Rhodes' mouth from day one. From the very first vignette, the very first time you saw him on TV, I wrote every single word. But here's Meltzer. Oh, no, that character was established and developed. Russo didn't start writing from till 1997. That's what I'm talking about. So Dave's going to come on my show and I'm going to say, Dave, I wrote the very first promo for Goldust that was probably 1995, 1996. Why would you say that I didn't start writing from until 1997? I was there from the start. That's why they don't come on the show, because they spew out stuff like it's factual, and there are no facts tied to anything.
Hey, since you brought Cody up, I did want to touch on that issue just a little bit. And I just want to ask you, I know we say homophobe and it means you don't like them or you're afraid of them, but especially those early episodes of Castrating the Marks, where when saying that when fans chant "This is awesome," that means that they're probably in the closet, or, you know, implying that Dave Meltzer is physically attracted to Young Bucks. Those kind of things are things of...
How is that being a homophobe? If I think Dave Meltzer is physically attracted to the Young Bucks, where in there do I hate homosexuals or am I afraid of them?
I think people cling to the quote, you know, this is from the show, you're either A, homosexual, okay, you like men, for you to react this way, you have to like men. B,
okay.
you're either not homosexual, but have homosexual tendencies.
Okay,
You're in the closet, and here's the quote. It's that simple, bro, because men do not react to other men that way. It's not a normal function. And I think people took that to mean you stigmatizing being gay and making being gay something to be being made fun of. And I think that's the interpretation.
But see, that's the interpretation. Where did I say that? That's what you got to understand, bro. You know, Matt, everything that comes out of my mouth, they're going to interpret the way they want to interpret it. There is nothing I said in that entire statement that said that would state A, I don't like homosexuals or lesbian, or B, I am afraid of homosexuals or lesbian. Nothing I said in that statement is even close to being labeled a homophobe. Not even close. Not even close.
But if it was somebody that you didn't like and they said something, can you see how that's not a big leap to paint you with that brush?
Not at all, bro. Because let me tell you something. That is something horrible, bro. Horrible to label somebody. And if you're gonna label somebody something that freaking horrible, then that person had better have done something. Had better say something to a gay person or a lesbian woman. That person, you better have some kind of concrete fact that guy did something to somebody that was gay. Do you know I have a transgender who has their own show on my network? I have a transgender on my network that has had a show on my network probably for the last 2 years. They wanted to take that comment, and it was just Ryan Satin. Nobody else said anything but Ryan Satin. Ryan Satin took that comment and turned that into me being a homophobe. Where did I say I don't like gay people in that comment?
You didn't say you
exactly
did not like gay people.
Exactly. So how am I a homophobe from that statement?
I guess what people believe is that by reading into people and outing their secret gay tendencies, that you're saying there's something wrong with it. And what you're saying is that you're just saying what you believe, but there's absolutely nothing wrong.
Yeah, he's not saying it's wrong. He's just saying
I'm saying. Listen, bro, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Matt.
Because Vince, I got to be honest with you. This needs to get out there, and I'm glad we're getting this explanation.
Okay, Matt. Let me give you a perfect example. Okay, bro, Matt. I am fans. You know, I'm old school, bro. But I'm going to give you a new spin on it too. I am fans of like legendary performers that draw a gay audience. Okay, bro. Like I've been to, bro. I'm a Liza Minnelli mark. I've been to dozens of Liza Minnelli concerts. Liza Minnelli draws a gay audience. I'm a fan of Cher. Cher draws a gay audience. Kathy Griffin, before she did what she did, she drew a gay audience. I just went to a concert last week at Red Rocks. It was I love this group called Haim. Okay. Bro, it was like a 75% lesbian audience. Look, gay and lesbian, 75%. So my whole point was the way some of these fans are reacting to these wrestlers. Is it a possibility that maybe the WWE, maybe a percentage of their audience, they're starting to draw a gay audience? That's what I said. That's what I said. Is it possible? Because I don't go to baseball games and see male fans react to Buster Posey this way. I don't go to a basketball game or whatever and see them react to male athletes that way, the way they react to a Finn Balor. I don't see that in regular sports. So my point was, is it possible that maybe, the WWE is starting to draw a gay audience? Here's what happened, Matt. They got offended by that. The audience got offended. They basically said, wait a minute, is Vince Russo calling us gay? They got offended by that, bro. It was nothing that I said. I asked a simple question. Is it possible they're starting to draw a gay audience? Nowhere in there am I saying I don't like gay people. I hate gay people. I'm afraid of gay people. Not even close, bro. I asked a simple question. They got offended because they were the ones that had a problem with me saying, oh shit, maybe WWE is starting to draw a gay audience. Now all of a sudden you got a Mark sitting there saying, wait a minute, did he just call us gay? They were the ones that were offended by it. That's what started the whole thing. It was nothing. I have no problem that quote is out there. No problem at all. I didn't say anything.
Do you think that sometimes that your, sensitivity to things kind of affects things? Like in these instances, that's the first time I've heard it come across like that. And I've listened to a lot of Castrating the Marks. And I think sometimes the anger gets a hold of you and things come out differently. I guess what I'm asking is, do you think that I've always thought you're not the greatest caretaker of your own legacy because of the attacks on you and because you feel the need to defend yourself? Do you feel that sometimes your sensitivity gets in your own way to kind of making your case?
I'll be honest with you, bro. The way the wrestling business is today, I'm embarrassed by wrestling today. I watch wrestling and I feel stupid watching wrestling. Okay, bro? Bro, do you really think I care about a legacy in wrestling? Seriously, bro? Do you think I care about a legacy in this business?
You do care when people talk shit on you because I see it on Twitter.
No, I care when people lie. I care when people lie, bro. You could talk all the shit. Bro, you could say you hate every angle I ever did. I could care less, bro. You could say whatever you want about David Arquette. You could say whatever, Vince putting a belt on himself. It's when you lie about me. Here's what it is, bro. It's when you lie about me, and then I call you out, and I say, bro, say that to me. Say that to my face, because that is a bald-faced lie. When you lie about me, bro, and then I call you out and you don't have the balls to say that to me because you know it's a freaking lie, that's when I have a problem. If you think like my feelings get hurt over David Arquette or a dog kennel from hell match, or I could freaking care less. These people don't have the first clue of what it takes to write a freaking wrestling show. This isn't Hollywood, bro. We're not writing 13 shows a year. We were writing 116 shows. They don't have a freaking clue. So I don't care if you didn't like my body of work or whatever. But bro, when you lie about me, well, now you're taking it to a whole different level. And now, bro, now you kick the bear. And that's where that comes in.
My final question before we wrap up, because this is all awesome, and thank you so much for your time. But I just want to know if you've ever realized, last night I was Wade Keller's co-host, and all we did was criticize SmackDown, and we criticized the build up to Money in the Bank. And are you aware of how in line your criticisms are of the product with the dirt sheet writers like Keller or Powell, someone else I talked to?
Well, first of all, I like Jason Powell. I've turned into a big fan. Bro, can I tell you the problem I have with these stories? You want to know? First of all, it's the lies and it's the personal attacks. But you know what it is just as much as that, bro? And you'll know I'm telling the truth because this is why I like Jason Powell. Do you know what it is, bro, that really – aside from the lies and making up the shit, Meltzer, he didn't write for Goldust till 97 and all that shit. Do you know what the underlining reason is why I really dislike these guys?
I've heard you say because they don't have credentials, because they've never been in a
No,
ring.
not even that, bro. Not even that. You know what it is? They're so effing arrogant, bro. Meltzer and Alvarez and Keller, they come across as so freaking arrogant. They're not giving, their opinions are facts in their minds. And they just come across like they know everything about everybody. And, the way they feel about, there's such a level of arrogance with these guys. So, of course, I go to, bro, how the hell can you be that arrogant when you never spent 5 minutes in the business? Like, how can you think you know as much as you do when you've never been in a car with wrestlers from town to town and you've never been in a locker room and you've never had to give a guy creative and he didn't like what you had? How can you be so freaking arrogant? That's why I like Powell. Jason Powell is the only guy that does not come across like an arrogant a-hole. So I literally like Jason Powell. But, I mean, you can't sit there and tell me that Meltzer and Alvarez and Mike Johnson and Dave Scherer and Keller, my God, bro, they all come across like the biggest arrogant pricks. And that's the part of it that really, really turns me against them. Bro, you don't know everything. You've never really done anything. If you stated stuff like it was your opinion, I don't have a problem about that. The way freaking Wade Keller, talks down Roman Reigns like every single week. Wait, look at what Roman Reigns has. Look at Roman Reigns' bloodlines in the business, bro, since the day he was born to your career. And you're going to sit there, bro, and literally talk smack personally about a guy like Roman Reigns? Like, are you freaking kidding me, bro?
But
that's what it is, bro. It's
Sure.
the freaking arrogance of these guys. It's the arrogance.
Isn't, though, coming off like and with Wade, I know he is like you in a lot of ways, that he has an ideal of the way he would like it to be. And don't you think that he has subscriptions to sell? He has papers to sell, Meltzer too, and just like you do on the brand, they have to amp it up a little bit, and they have to make a living, and that's okay.
Yeah, but let me tell you something, bro. You don't, this is my opinion now. You don't amp it up by coming across like you know more than everybody else. Okay, I don't agree with that. With my brand, bro, Russo's brand, with my brand, the Realm Network, bro, I treat my listeners, my subscribers, whatever you want to call them, as freaking equals, bro, as regular freaking people. You could be sitting in my living room, bro, and I will have a conversation with you. I talk to them, constantly, bro, through emails and DMs, and we talk about, depression, and you wouldn't believe the things that I don't talk down to them. He comes across like, bro, you need to subscribe and you need to pay me because I know more than you'll ever know. That's how he comes across to me. Of course, bro, we've got to work them. We've got a business. And I do that in other ways, bro, but I certainly don't do that in making the audience feel like I'm better than them.
Robbie, it's now your turn, buddy.
Vince, you're the man. No, I mean, dude, that's the wrap. We appreciate it. One tiny 30-second thing I want to touch on, bro, because I have to ask you this, because so I do a lot of indies in the Northeast, and I asked you this already. I don't know if you remember, but I do indies in the Northeast, so I'm on a lot of these shows around. And there was a dude who told me a story who is a major fan of yours, okay? His name is CPA. He's a wrestler. He's a huge fan of yours. And he was so excited that a few years ago, he got to pick you up at the airport. And he picked you up.
God, bro,
Listen,
this
bro.
guy, bro.
Listen,
Please.
he told me he was super excited to drive with you and get to pick your brain and whatever. And 10 minutes into the drive, it was pouring rain. You asked him to pull the car over because you didn't trust his driving because I guess the windshield wiper broke or something.
As much time as you want.
Do I have 30 seconds?
No.
Okay.
Just a quick version.
Let me give you the reality of the version. Okay, Matt, this guy picks me up to bring me to an indie show or whatever. Okay, Matt, I just told you, Matt. Do you know? Never in my entire career did I ever travel first class. Never sat in a first class seat, bro. When we were working for TNA, I was staying at the Holiday Inn Express, and a half a mile down the road, Eric Bischoff was staying in the most expensive hotel in Nashville.
Shocking.
Okay, bro. So I am not high maintenance, bro. I got this jersey at Goodwill. Okay, bro. I get my shirts at Goodwill. Okay, bro. I am not high maintenance. So this guy picks me up, bro. New York City, pouring freaking rain. Okay, bro. Picks me up, bro. And here's the first thing I noticed. The car stinks. Okay. So, bro, Matt, I look behind me. I am not exaggerating. The entire back seat is filled with garbage. Okay, like McDonald's bags, this, that. Matt, I swear to God, I still don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, whatever, bro. You know, the guy's an indie worker. He's got no money, whatever. Okay. So now, bro, it's pouring rain outside. Okay, Matt? So now, bro, this guy pulls up on a major highway in New York, and it's like rush hour. It's pouring. People are bumping the horns, this and that, right? Bro, I start noticing that the windows are getting really fogged, all right? So, Matt, I say to the guy, bro, don't you think it's time to put your defrosters on, right? So, Matt, in the middle of New York City traffic, pouring down freaking rain, the guy turns to me and says, my defrosters don't work. Okay? So now, Matt, this is a true story. Now the entire windshield, we're on the highway, bro. The entire windshield is fogged. You cannot see through it. Bro, the guy reaches in the back and grabs a hamburger wrapper and starts on the inside. He starts on the inside, rubbing the fog off the windows, bro. So I just said to him, I said, bro, let me out of this freaking car. I said, I am not going to die, bro, on a New York City freaking highway because you're defroster. Let me out of the car, bro. And the guy let me off at the side of the road.
Hilarious. Well, I got to tell you, I haven't agreed with a lot of things you've said in the past, but I am a Realm subscriber, Vince, and I'm going to ask you now a question that you like to ask us. Do you know why I'm a Realm subscriber?
No.
Because it's entertaining, and Castry and the Marks and all the shows on the Realm Network are entertaining. If you're a wrestling fan, make sure to check them out. You're also involved with Rocky Pro Wrestling over there in Colorado, and you're on air, and you're involved with the talent. What else are you doing these days, buddy?
Yeah, no, that's it, bro. I'm excited about Rocky Mountain Pro because Robbie's been out here a couple of times, and we just got a local TV deal, bro. We just started locally on TV a couple of weeks ago, and you can actually see the shows, bro. If you want to see Vince Russo writing again, you can go on Twitch, bro. Just Rocky Mountain Pro. You will see the local show that is here. I've been doing a lot on Twitch now too, bro. It's Vince Russo Live, ! I've been doing a lot on Twitch, bro. My podcast is on the Realm Network. We have 8 shows a week. I'm on every single day. It's less than $1 a week, bro. That's all we charge. You just go to russosbrand.com. And I mean, all that stuff is keeping me pretty busy, man.
And then what about if someone wants you for bookings or anything like that? Are you taking any appearances?
You know what, bro? I'm really not. Like, guys, I hate to sound this way. I don't want to be around this stuff. Like, I don't. I just, it's not, bro. If they change the name of it, bro, I think, like, if all of a sudden tomorrow professional wrestling became like America Lucha, okay, American Lucha, or if they change the name of it, like, I think I'd be okay. In my opinion, I've been watching professional wrestling now, bro, for 45 years. Okay, bro, I've gone through every era. This is not professional wrestling. It's not, and I'm not a fan of it. I don't want to be around it. I don't even take bookings. I do Rocky Mountain Pro because we're doing Rocky Mountain Pro, character-based storylines. We're doing Rocky Mountain Pro. Heat, bro. There's no heat in wrestling anymore. The heat has totally disappeared. The babyface is up at the end of every freaking show. They've eliminated heat from wrestling. And that's why, like, I don't even take bookings, bro. Like, the whole thing with All In, I got a call to go to All In. They called me, Vince, would you like to participate in All In? I said, yeah, sure, bro, I'll do it because of the podcasting thing. I thought it was pretty cool. And, bro, I thought it was cool for me to go into the backyard of the type of business that I criticize all the time. I got no problem with that. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll come. They asked me. Next thing I know, Cody Rhodes is putting a tweet out, oh, you're not welcome. So, the fact of the matter is, well, bro, if I wasn't welcome, I shouldn't have been asked in the first place. But my point is, bro, it's I don't enjoy it anymore. And it's what you said about the Realm Network, bro. I do this to entertain people, man. I want people to be freaking entertained. I wish I didn't have to talk about wrestling at all. I wish I could eliminate it from my freaking vocabulary. I've talked about everything that could be talked about, said everything, and slowly but surely I'm trying to turn my show over. But yeah, bro, and then, like, I literally turned down bookings, man, because I don't want to do it.
What about Instagram, Twitter, places to follow you at?
Yeah, no, bro. The hate on Twitter became overwhelming. I took myself off of Twitter. I don't even answer my email anymore, bro. I don't do Instagram. The only places people are going to find me are on, Twitch or, the Realm Network, VinceRusso'sBrand.com. That's it.
Well, Vince, I can't thank you enough for being here, and I can't thank you enough for being so candid, answering all the questions, and this, I believe, has been our greatest interview, and I hope you enjoyed yourself too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I did, Matt. I really appreciate it, but Robbie, you still got to, so Dakota's okay? I can sleep tonight? Bro.
Wow. So, Robbie, I got to ask you, being someone who's a friend of Vince Russo, was that somewhat uncomfortable for you, for me to kind of take him to task for some of those things and it get a little bit heated?
Well, you know what it is? I'm not a big, I'll be straight up honest with you. I'm not a big, I don't follow a lot of some of the names you guys were using of reporters and websites and that kind of stuff. I don't even know who or what that stuff is. So that's why I kind of just sat back and I was letting you guys do your thing. But I mean, maybe you could talk to some of your buddies and they could talk to him and maybe they could sort this out and fix it. What do you think?
Man, if that happens, we really change lives. But I got to say, this interview, I came around on Vince a little bit because I kind of believed all the stuff I read and heard from him, and I've never heard him ask questions like that before, so I felt we needed to ask them. And I would ask everybody to approach it with an open mind and save your hate tweets and maybe, learn a thing or two and maybe come to an understanding with something you may disagree with.
Yeah, I remember beforehand, I could tell in your voice how you were going into the interview, and I can hear your voice now after, and I can see that Vince changed. And I think a lot of you people out there that just listen to it, whether you want to admit it or not, you're realizing that Vince isn't that bad of a guy.
And everybody I've talked to who know him, who've talked to him, has said he's a good guy. Like I said, I think he goes a little bit, gets a little amped up and doesn't do himself any favors sometimes, but I like the guy. I thought he came off really great on the interview, and I think people are going to be talking about this interview for a long, long time.
Yeah, guys, definitely let us know your thoughts. Let us know your updates on if you still hate Vince, if you love him now, if you like him a little bit. And yeah, keep us posted. Remember, at Twitter, on Twitter at Wyatt Ended, on Instagram at Wyatt Ended, and then YouTube whereitended.com. And then Matt, remind him about our Patreon page.
Go to our Patreon page and just support the show a little bit. You know, we're going to put a whole bunch of stuff on there. We're going to do the shout outs after a month on Patreon. And we're going to do them on air, and we're also going to do them on Twitter. And also, make sure if you listen on iTunes, while you're listening, go ahead and give us a review. Those reviews help us a long way and help us bring you the show for free every single week.
Yeah, guys, and remember, if you want to see my upcoming schedule, robbie-e.com, and then Twitter at Robbie E Impact, Instagram at Real Robbie E, and pray for me this week against Scott Steiner. And that is all.
We will do that.